Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
I love the nurses that come and see me.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
Since I learned about Angel Care, I would recommend them to anybody.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always to the producer, editor of our series, Jeff Durall, and from Eagle Community Television for camera and lighting work, Brandon Cooley. We're at Rarick Hall on the campus of Fort Hays State University, second floor, with Dr. Chris Jochum, the chair of the Department of Teacher Education. Chris has just ended his first class year, I guess, at Fort Hays as the new Department of Teacher Education chair. Give us a little background, Chris.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me and focusing on teacher education here at Fort Hays State. I recently spent 8 years at the University of Nebraska-Kearney, so not too far from here, and I served there as in the Modern Language Department, working with future foreign language teachers. Previous to that, I spent 1 year at Central Missouri, and before that, I was a high school teacher right here in Kansas at Salina South. I'm originally from Nebraska, western Nebraska, and so for Kansas that aren't too familiar, I just tell them if you go straight north of Colby a couple hours, you'll literally hit my hometown. So I consider myself a Midwesterner, and this is my second stint living in Kansas, so I tell people that I feel as though Kansas is just as much home now as Nebraska.
Should be an easy transition,
yes,
I would
yes.
think. Dr. Jochum's research interests focus on preparation and professional development of pre-service and in-service educators. Primary emphasis on self-efficacy, mentoring, and the value of study abroad. Expand on that a little bit for us, Chris.
Well, because of my background in foreign language education, I was fortunate as an undergraduate to study abroad. My foreign language was Spanish, and so obviously it's recommended, if not necessary anymore, that one go abroad to really immerse in the language. And so that really piqued my interest in the value of study abroad. And then as I became a college professor and was working with future teachers, I was able to take those students abroad, and that led into some research with my graduate students, many of whom were practicing high school Spanish teachers from around the country, because similar to Fort Hays, I was teaching in an online program. And so I became interested in how living in another country, how experiencing those cultural interactions can affect one's self-efficacy, or the extent to which they feel confident in their teaching abilities. And because I had access to both future and current teachers, that just led to that line of inquiry. So it's been very rewarding and something that I've been able to continue even with my transition here as the chair at Fort Hays.
It's fair to say, Chris, that if student teachers and those who are going into education can expand their horizons, they can bring that expansion to students that they'll be teaching eventually?
Without a doubt. I tell people when I've talked about cultural proficiency or studying abroad that for the most part, if you're like me and grew up with people who predominantly look and act and sound like you, then that's a good reason to go somewhere else for a while. And I do think that it does help teachers. Any life experience that they can get makes them not only, I think, a better teacher, but more importantly, more empathetic to the number of students they'll work with. Because especially in public schools, in a good way, we work with everyone. And you have to have a pretty robust understanding of the different students that'll come into your class.
Tell me about some of the educator influences that were in your life, Dr. Jochum.
Well, I was fortunate. You know, I grew up in a small rural town, similar to towns around Hays, where the school is pretty much the major social function and, the social structure in town. And so when I think of influential educators, I can think of a third grade teacher I had that was very influential in my my development, had a handful of amazing high school teachers. And it wasn't until after I left college and became a teacher that I realized just how lucky I was to have really good teachers. And so I think about some of the teachers I had a few influential coaches that were teachers first. And I think that really affected my decision to be an educator.
Hear that time and again, that teacher influence is such a big part of people's lives, regardless of what age they happen to be. How about your parents' influence?
Well, again, they were always very supportive of school. They weren't teachers, which I joke maybe that's why I became a teacher. You know, sometimes students are at first less likely, more anecdotally, but I say that in jest. But no, they were always very supportive of education. Understood the value of it. I knew early on that it was an expectation that I would go to college. And I am, first generation college graduate, and so they were very supportive and were very helpful in pointing me in the right direction. Not necessarily to be an educator, but just the importance of education.
Talk about the teacher education department at Fort Hays State for a while, if you would, Dr. Jochum. Program offerings, maybe career opportunities for students and such.
Well, obviously I could talk a lot about this because I really think that we're one of the best in the business when it comes to preparing teachers. As you know, Fort Hays State was founded as a teacher's college. And while we have excellent programs across the board, I think we still have that legacy of being a teacher preparation school. Right now, we have probably around 900 students total in our program. We have a thriving online program that reaches students throughout the country and in some other countries. And obviously, our traditional program here on campus. Our main areas of emphasis are elementary education, which is grades K through 6, early childhood unified, so those that want to work with students that are pre-kindergarten that also have an emphasis in special ed. We have a minor in special ed, and then we also work with and facilitate a number of secondary endorsements. So those that want to teach high school, be it biology, physics, history, we also work and provide some of the education courses for those students. Overall, I think coming into this and just finishing my new year, I don't think I could have asked for a better department. Coaches always talk about how, especially in preseason, they like their team, and I like my team. We have a great group of educators, and I'm just really honored to be a part of them. But always great things happening here in the teacher ed department, and we have a lot of exciting things on the horizon that we'll be working on this year that will hopefully launch in the fall of 2018.
We need to talk a little bit about the grants that you've received. That program obviously is a very strong program because of the outpouring of support from the general public. And that's something that again, being new to Fort Hays was just blew me away, not only for teacher ed, but the level of foundational support that this institution receives, and the extent to which the community supports us is phenomenal. About a year ago, we received a grant, $104,000 from the Board of Regents to support, we call it the In-Place Grant. And that's to support those who are what we call place-bound in predominantly rural Kansas areas. And we know that they are embedded in those communities. They want to pursue a job in teaching. And because they're somewhat geographically limited, certainly can't drive to campus, we've been able to help them through scholarship funds. Primarily those who are working as paraprofessionals in their schools, because we found that a lot of administrators, rightfully so, if they have a quality paraeducator who's from the community, who's invested in the school, they really hope that they can become certified and then join their teaching staff. And so that in-place grant in large part has helped not only support current students in our Parapathway program, but it's also been an important part of our discussions as we have somewhat reimagined and redesigned that to make it more accessible and better meet the needs of those students.
So that was something that we're really proud of. We also have received support for our Young Readers Conference. That's an annual event. Dr. Beth Walliser has been instrumental in putting that together, and kudos to her for receiving that. I think because of her leadership, it got the recognition it deserved, and people wanted to support that financially. And so we're very thankful. That'll help kids for years to come. We also recently, this spring, Fort Hays had a press conference, and some local Fort Hays residents, Mr. and Mrs. Kellogg, donated to both athletics, business, and teacher education. And that was part of a large endowment that we are very thankful, and that's going to, again, help students in our program for years to come, and more importantly, the students that they work with.
Tell me about the teacher licensure, too. You've been able to help through some scholarship money to help those beginning teachers go through the licensing process, which for a beginning teacher is pretty expensive, Chris.
It is. It is right around $400 to become a licensed teacher in Kansas. And most of that is spent during the student teaching experience, which is very difficult because it's hard to have a job while you're student teaching, and so financially that can be difficult. What we were able to do with foundation support, donations given specifically to teacher education, is this past year we were able to, all of our student teachers that were out there that wanted to take advantage of it, and we had close to 190, we were able to support each of those with a $60 stipend. One of the tests that they take is called the KPTP. It's a Kansas-based test. And it's $60, and while we wish we could pay more, it is a start. And so all of those teachers, if they took advantage of that, received that. In addition, we established the Teacher Certification Fund through the foundation. So now future donors, alumni, et cetera, will be able to specifically give to an account that will help somebody become a certified teacher. And what I'm very proud of is all of our full-time faculty in teacher education signed up for payroll deduction to also support that account.
Wow.
So the goal is someday down the road to get to where every student would be compensated for their licensure fees, but it's a start, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Every little bit
Yes,
helps, I
it
think,
does.
probably. How about qualities of an effective teacher, since you've been in this business both in the classroom as well as a student?
Well, there are many. You wear many hats. First of all, I think you have to be a caring individual. You really have to be in it for the kids. I worked for a principal one time, and on his desk he had a notepad that said, "Kids are our business." And that's really always stuck with me. And so you do have to be caring. You have to be very versatile. Especially those that the younger the kids, the more they keep you on your toes. And so you have to be versatile, but yet you also have to be able to put on your professional hat and understand what's going on in your field, not only in terms of research and best practice, but especially in terms of the political climate, both at the state and the national level, which right now at both levels is affecting education, as we know. And so I would say, caring, versatile, and also have knowledge, professional knowledge of what's going on in your field.
Does it trouble you to an extent, Dr. Jochum, that perhaps some of the things that were happening previously in Kansas in the legislature and also nationally as well, currently, is having an impact on your ability to develop a comprehensive education, public education program?
Yeah, it is a concern, and we've unfortunately have seen that both in some numbers that we look at and anecdotally. We know that sometimes now, our greatest influences as teachers, our own teachers, because of the climate they work in, they are less than likely to tell their own students that teaching might be a good choice. And so it does affect us at every level. Certainly right now we're fighting a perception issue about the profession of teaching. And I would say with what's going on in the state of Kansas right now, even with some of those things, kind of above our heads at all times, we are still finding students that come to us that are still committed to teaching. I think a lot of it is because we are a rural state, and these kids grew up in rural areas, and they realize the impact that a teacher can have. But no, you're right, Mike. It's concerning, but also education is a pendulum. And having lived in Kansas before and taking about a 10-year hiatus and then coming back, I am hopeful that things will kind of go back in a different direction. But it is every day we have to monitor the situation and respond accordingly. So hopeful that things will swing back in a different direction in the near future.
Well, and when you talk to teachers, I think, Dr. Jochum, you find that there are certain rewards, benefits to teaching that may come either now or certainly in the future to those individuals who are in the classrooms and doing the work.
Yeah, without it, it's a very, very rewarding profession and lifestyle, and that's what we've told some of our own students is it's a good profession to enter, and stay in it long enough, and you will see a shift. And so overall, though, I'm still pleased though that we are maintaining interest in our students who want to become future teachers.
Sounds like a strong department with a strong leader. Dr. Chris Jochum, Chair of the Department of Teacher Education at Fort Hays State University, and our Community Connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hays and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
My Angel Care physical therapist taught me how to do exercises safely.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
It gives us independence in our home.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.